Hey y'all! So today I'm going to be doing my first book unhaul. There's a pretty wide variety of books in this, some like school books that I want to get rid of, some books that I've already read and was kind of meh about, some books that I'm just not going to read. I've come to the decision that I'm just not going to read them, and then some like random ones. And I'm not sure of the exact number of books that I'm going to be unhauling, so I'll just put it here when I'm editing. Ooh, look at the number. So I have them divided up into different categories, and I'll just be going category by category. So this time last year I took a class called Intelligence and Creativity. It was a topics class in psychology, and it was actually a lot more boring than it sounds. It sounds exciting, but it was actually boring. And I still have 4 of the books from that class because they're not offering it again and I couldn't sell it back to my school's bookstore. So I'm probably just gonna like donate these or sell them to my local used bookstore. So they are Creativity 101 by James C. Kaufman, Creativity, the Psychology of Discovery and Invention by a name that I'm not even gonna try to pronounce, Intelligence, A Brief History by these 2 people, and IQ Testing 101 by Alan S. Kaufman. So yeah, I've had these for a year, and I thought I might actually read one of them after the class, that it might be interesting enough, but I just haven't done it, and I haven't really bothered with it, and it's not really that interesting to me anymore, so I'm just going to be getting rid of these. And then I have 2 books from a class I took my sophomore year. It was a required humanities class, and the first one that I have is Othello by Shakespeare, and the second one is Selections from the Canzoniere and Other Works by Petrarch. I don't even remember what was in here. It's been too long since I've taken this class, and I wasn't a huge fan of Othello. And then I have some random nonfiction books. The first is Music by Nicholas Cook. The cover intrigued me, and since I am a music major, it seemed really interesting, but when you look through it, it's kind of more like a textbook than an actually interesting book about music, so I decided to get rid of it. Plus, I've had it for a really long time, and I haven't even had any interest in picking it up. And the last nonfiction book that I have here is Nothing Feels Good, Punk Rock, Teenagers, and Emo by Andy Greenwald. I found this on Book Outlet for really cheap, and it sounded really interesting because like punk rock and emo are like my favorite genres of music, and I thought that it would be really entertaining. However, when I looked at all the Goodreads reviews, which I forgot to do before getting the book, they were really negative, and a lot of people said that he was really condescending toward people within this subgenre of music, or people that like punk rock music and emo music, and I'm just not going to give it the time of day. It's gone. Bye-bye. The next books that I have might be slightly surprising and alarming, but do not fear. I plan to read these books. I just don't like the version that I have. And that is The Lord of the Rings trilogy by J.R.R. Tolkien. Basically, I purchased this trilogy on a whim after the first time I saw the movies a few years back. Yes, I only saw the movies for the first time a few years ago. Anyway, yeah, the editions don't match. Even the 2 that are close, like one's shorter than the other, and the only reason I got this version of this one was because it has Aragorn on the cover, and I love Aragorn. But yeah, I'm probably just going to go ahead and purchase like a bind-up of the 3 of these, because all 3 of these are, yeah, they don't match, and it makes me sad every time I look at it on my shelves. Okay, now we're going to be jumping into some of the more popular books like YA and some adult books as well. So the next 2 books that I have are the Anna Dressed in Blood duology. So there's the first book, Anna Dressed in Blood, and the second book, Girl of Nightmares. I purchased these on Book Outlet sometime last year, and at first I was really interested in reading them. However, my interest has definitely waned, and I don't think I'm ever going to pick these up. Plus, I like paranormal ghost books, but it's a romance with a ghost and a human, and that just seems kind of weird, so I'm just, nah, I'm gonna pass. The next 2 books that I have are the second and third book in the Uglies trilogy by Scott Westerfeld, which is Pretties and Specials. I read the first 2 books in this trilogy back in junior high, and I never really got to the third book, Specials, and so my plan was to reread through the entire trilogy, but the more I think about it, the more I remember kind of being very meh about Pretties, and that's why I didn't continue on to Specials. And if I was really meh about it as like a 12 or 13-year-old, I have a feeling I'm going to be even more meh about it as a 20-year-old. The next book that I have is Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson. This does fall under the category of darker contemporaries, which are the contemporaries that I prefer to read. However, it does have high school students, and if you've seen my book turn-ons and turn-offs videos, you will know that I really don't tend to like books where the characters are actually in high school, which is why I tend to gravitate toward fantasy and dystopian, and this book just doesn't interest me that much anymore. The next book that I have is Dear Killer by Catherine Ewell? I actually got this art copy from my local used bookstore. If you spend a certain amount of money, then you get a free ARC, and I thought it was interesting at the time, and I was like, oh hey, this is kind of like a horror, like murder mystery type thing, and it seemed interesting, but my interest has faded, and it wasn't really something that I was really excited to read in the first place. I just happened to stumble across it. So yeah. So the next book that I have is If I Stay by Gail Forman. Yeah, this is kind of the same thing as with Speak. I've heard good things about this book, but as time goes on, I get less and less interested in reading contemporaries that are set in high school, and less interested in reading books that are almost solely based on a romance. Next is Beautiful Creatures by Kami Garcia and Margaret Stoll. I've explained why I don't want to read this in another video, but basically I've heard a lot of good things about this book, but I've heard that the rest of the series is terrible. And so I just don't want to even bother with it, because why start a series that I know gets terrible by the end? Next, I have The Lost Code by Kevin Emerson. This is a dystopian novel that I got off of Book Outlet, and although it sounds kind of interesting, I've never felt the need to pick it up. I mean, it sounds kind of intriguing, but at the same time, I just don't really want to read it. It's weird. But yeah, like, there are so many other things I would rather read than this, so I'm probably never going to get to it. Next, I have Gone by Michael Grant, which is another dystopian novel, which normally is my thing. However, the main characters in this book are like 12 and 13, and I know that I should give it a chance, but at the same time I have a feeling I just won't be able to relate to them. And yeah, the younger the main characters are, the harder time I have connecting to them, so I'm not going to waste my time with something that I think probably won't be my thing. So the next few books in this haul will be books that I have read and kind of enjoyed, but not enough to keep. So next I have Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. This was very different from what I expected. And it got really weird, and not necessarily in a good way. Not in a bad way either, but like just weird. And it was okay. I didn't really dislike it, but I didn't really like it either. I'm not sure really how to put my feelings for this book into words. It was okay, and I'm never gonna reread it, so why keep it? Next, I have Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Please don't freak out. I read this, I liked it, but I feel like this is one of those books that personally for me doesn't stand up to a reread. Most of the reason that I actually continued reading this book was kind of to figure out what was gonna happen with these crazy characters, and now that I know, I have no desire to reread it. Plus, I just thought it was okay. I mean, I wasn't really as impressed with it as most people were. Next, I have 172 Hours on the Moon by Johan Harstad. Like with the other books, I read it, and I like this one more than I like the other books. However, I'm not ever gonna reread it. Next, I have some duplicate copies of books, so don't worry about me disliking these books, it's just I have 2 copies of them. First one is Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. I bought this copy a long time ago, and I didn't read it until kind of this time last year. It was like May of last year, and I really loved the trilogy, but I did find it in hardcover at a used bookstore, so I ended up buying that, and I'm going to get rid of this copy. And next, I have Mistborn: The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. If you've seen my most recent book haul, I ended up purchasing the full trilogy in some beautiful editions, and so I decided to get rid of this copy that I had of the first book. And now I just have some kind of random books that I'm wanting to get rid of. The first is a bind-up of Agatha Christie's Sleeping Murder and Murder at the Vicarage. Basically, these are both Miss Marple mysteries, and I'm trying to read through the Poirot series, and I won't get to Miss Marple for a very long time. so I don't see the point of having this take up shelf space. Next, I have some random books that I got for free at a used bookstore. First, I have Downsiders by Neil Shusterman, Book of Shadows by Mark Olden, and Gargoyles Don't Drive School Buses from the Bailey School Kids series. Basically, when you spend a certain amount of money at a different used bookstore than the one I talked about previously, you get a free book from this basket, and so I just kind of chose one some of the times that I was there, and yeah, I'm not gonna read these. And finally, the last book that I have is also a duplicate copy, and that is The Lost City of Far, which is the second book in the Pendragon series. Now, the Pendragon series, which is up here, is one of my favorite series of all time. However, when I was trying to purchase all of the books in hardcover, I accidentally ended up getting this one. I got it online and I thought I was buying a book that had, like, you know, a dust jacket and was like a normal hardcover, but I got like the weird library binding version that I wasn't expecting. So yeah, it definitely does not match the rest of my books, and so I will not be keeping it. Plus, I have a nice shiny hardcover version of it already. So yeah, those are all the books that I'm planning to get rid of. I will probably take them all to one of my used bookstores in town, and then whichever ones they don't want, I'll take them over to Goodwill. So yeah, it'll be nice to have a little bit cleaner shelves and a little bit more space. Also, you may have noticed that my bookshelf has changed a little bit. I have reorganized, and it's actually slightly less organized because I made it so that it would look all pretty and all my favorites would be on the top two shelves. I'm not going to do a bookshelf tour, mostly because I'm going to be moving kind of soon into summer housing, and then I'm gonna be moving out of summer housing, so like I'll probably do another bookshelf tour once I get into my apartment that I'm going to be living in the fall. And I might be getting a second full-size bookshelf once I move in there. I'm not totally sure. So yeah, that is all for this video. As always, I will leave links down in the description to my blog and my Twitter and my Goodreads. Please add me as a friend on Goodreads. I would love to be friends with all of you. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!